morning, y'all. How's your week?
Great.
Yeah? Who said great? Adam had a great week. That's awesome. And he was the only one. The only one. Everybody else, was a week. I'm looking forward to today, but I'm a little bit nervous today. Today's going to be a very different type of message. As you know, if you've been here for the last couple of weeks, we've been pretty much going verse by verse through Joshua. And today, instead, I'd like to kind of tell you the story of what happens in Joshua 9. And so by all means, if you've got your Bibles, turn to Joshua 9. I don't know if you noticed, but I put it out there to do some pre-reading so you'll be familiar with the story, and you'll know if I get it wrong. You can hold up a big X if I've said something that's not true. I'm going to tell you the story from Joshua 9. And then we're going to draw out 5 things from not from the story, but that connect to the principle of the story. So I'm actually only going to have one verse of scripture up today, which is a little bit unusual. And I always kind of feel like I'm on a trapeze without a net when we do this, because we're not just kind of going through God's word. But I hope you bear with me. And I do believe that there's a word for at least somebody in all of this. To begin with, what I want to do is kind of set the stage, but I want to give you the big idea for today first. So, I can drive this time. That's right. Thank you, Barry. There we go. So here's the big idea for today. When we get comfortable in God's care, there's a danger of forgetting to connect with the one caring for us. And I'm going to pause and go on a bit of a tangent. I often will say from the pulpit how much I am blessed by, how much I enjoy our time of pre-service prayer. Generally at around 9:30. Sometimes we start to filter our way over there. But if you don't know where the youth room is, and if it's just a case of not knowing the geography of how to get to pray, we can help you with that. But if you were to adjust your schedule and say to yourself, hey, church actually starts at 9:30, you will be blessed. I guarantee, this is a David Buzzard guarantee, that you will be blessed by that time of prayer. We were able to share, and a testimony was brought, and it was a beautiful time. It's one of my favorite times of the service. But we were talking about how so many of us are in the fire. How so many of us are in the thick of it, in the battle. We're going through some brutal times and some brutal things. And I think it's a principle of humanity that when we're in a bad space, we're more likely to reach out for help. We're more likely to look beyond ourselves to get any kind of assistance that we can get, right? So those are the times where we typically will tether ourselves more closely to God, which is a good thing. Those are the times where we reach out and we're a little bit more steadfast in our longing for God's presence and God's protection, His care. But it's in these times of comfort, when things are going well, that we can start to kind of put our feet up and say, you know what, I'm doing great. I'm sinning a lot less than I used to. My circumstances are fantastic. And so we are less likely to reach out and connect with the God who has blessed us with a lot of these things that can sometimes lead to comfort. And we're going to see this played out in a story from Joshua. But before we do that, I want to give a little bit more context to what is happening with the Israelites historically at this time. And it's funny because I've been living in Joshua for the last little bit, and so yeah, you read, and I believe that God gives you words from His Word, but I think you do a little bit of imagining as well. You try and picture what it would have been like historically, what the climate would have been like, what the world would have been like at this time. And I started fixating a little bit more on numbers, not the book of Numbers, but the numbers of people. And I started to get a picture of what was happening. First of all, if you want to be a rock star, I just had this idea as I was driving here this morning, but if you want to Google, if you can find an estimated population of the entire world at about 1500 BC, 1500 BC, you can contribute to this conversation. So if you want to go on your phone, listen with one ear and read with the other, try and find the population of the world at about 1500 BC. And I'll talk while you're looking that up. So imagine Israel is captive to Egypt. Remember? Pharaoh has got Moses and the Israelites under his thumb. Until God says, enough's enough, let my people go. And he freed Israel. And remember, Israel walked through the Red Sea to freedom. And the waves crashed behind them and wiped out their pursuers. The number of people who are estimated to have walked free, they estimate around 600,000 and change men. Which means, and again, this is a sad tribute to the times that, not tribute to the times, but testimony to the times, that they counted the men, but the women and children would have just been kind of like, okay, and them too. So when we talk about numbers of people, we're talking of northward over 2 million people leaving a country into another geographical region. So today, refugees are a bit of a hot topic. And we see in different countries where if there's turmoil in one country, you get this push of people into another close geographical location. And Barry's got the number. What's the number?
It's between 425 and 540 million people.
425. Okay, let's say 500 million people. Okay, so again, the reason I'm asking that is just to give context to what percentage of the Earth's population was on the move at this time. So 2 million of the 500 million, that's a lot. 2 million today would be a lot. And we have, what, 6.5 billion? 7 billion people on the planet? So 500 million people and 2 million people are moving into this new land. All right, come back to what I was saying. So again, we have this issue, I don't know if you want to call it, of how do we handle, how do we deal with, and as Christians, how do we wrestle with the idea of caring for refugees? Now, very rarely would we see 2 million refugees flood into a country all at once. But that's exactly what's happening at this time. They're, by definition, refugees leaving the danger of Egypt, coming to the safety on the other side of the Red Sea. 2 million plus people in this land. Now, as it turned out, they kind of wandered in this wilderness. Obviously, with only 500 million people on the planet, there was more space. There was more geography to kind of mill about. And so they wandered in the desert for a time. But now bring it to the time of Joshua, the book of Joshua, where now they're crossing the Jordan River. 2 million people crossing into this land that is occupied by other people. So when we read about the people of Jericho, when Rahab says, we know about your God, and we look out of our building and we see the 2 million little campfires, our hearts are melting with fear. There's a reason for it. There's a reason for that fear. This is something that is overwhelming to the people of the land. And so the people of Jericho were afraid. And isn't it interesting that God didn't use the numbers of the Israelites one bit to take the walls of Jericho, to take Jericho? He used music and praise and his own power to knock down the walls of Jericho. And then when we see in that next skirmish against Ai, let's send 2,000 or 3,000 people. It starts to give you an idea of what a fraction of that host of soldiers that would have been. 2,000 or 3,000 people, and they did get beat up there, and we know why. Brings us to where we're at today in Joshua 9. Israel is moving en masse. They've taken Jericho, they've taken Ai, and they're moving into the promised land. What's happening now is word is spreading all throughout Canaan land. And these nations, some of the nations, about 6 or 7 of them, start to meet. They probably have some kind of a summit, like the anti-Israelite summit. How are we going to deal with this horde of people that is coming into the land, and they are declaring that this is their land. They're going to take it all. And so they get together and say, you know what, if we try and fight them on our own, we're doomed. But if we all come together, maybe we can pool our forces and we can take on the Israelites. But that's really just a sideshow to what happens in Joshua 9. One of the nations, the city of Gilead, they decide they're going to go a different route. I think they kind of had a clear picture. This group is going to overwhelm us. We're doomed if we try and fight them in any way. Even if we team up with the other guys, we're doomed if we try and fight them. And so they came up with a different plan. And the Gileadites, they dressed in a way that it made them look like they had gone on this super long journey. That they had traveled thousands of miles to come and meet with Israel. And then they put on this show. They brought this moldy old bread, and they treated their wineskins to make it look like, and their sandals were all worn out. They made it look, they dressed up, and here's what they did. The Gibeonites came up with a plan to pose as representatives from a faraway land. They wanted to trick the Israelites into believing that they were not from Canaan land. They were not from this promised land. They were from far away. And the reason they did that is because they knew that Israel was meant to come in and take over the entire Canaan land, the entire promised land. And they knew that Israel would never make a treaty with them if they knew that they were actually a local tribe. And so they came and they posed as travelers. Not just travelers, but travelers who came in awe of Israel and in awe of their God, and who humbled themselves and gave themselves to be as servants to Israel. And so Israel took a look at them like, yeah, they're from super far away. They're clearly not from this area. Sure, we'll make peace with you. You're the Gileadites? Okay, we'll make peace with you. We will not come and get you. We're just going to kind of deal with this place. We're not going to harm you. And so we're making this pact, this treaty with you. But the truth of the matter is, okay, imagine, let's do some geography for a second. So Carol on the coffee table, that's the Sea of Galilee. This alley here, is the Jordan River, and this is the Dead Sea. So the Israelites, they first crossed the Jordan and took Jericho. Gilead is just northwest of Jerusalem. It's quite close. So the point is this, they're liars. They are actually local. And so now they have made this treaty with Israel. And the reason they did it is this. This is in chapter 9, verse 14. Israel looked at their situation, but they did not ask counsel from the Lord. And this is the single point I want to hammer home today. And it goes back to our big idea. Israel was moving like this swarm through the land that had been promised to them by God. They've got victories in their rearview mirror that can only be attributed to the awesome power of the Almighty God that they serve. They're on the winning team. Everything is going their way. Everything is going as promised. We talk about it being the promised land. It is a promise that had been made to them, and they were seeing it fulfilled. Everything was going great. And so they didn't treat their situation with the Gileadites with weight. It was just like, oh, you look like you're from far away. Sure, we will make a promise with you. We will not attack you. And they made that mistake because they did not ask counsel from the Lord. If they would have taken that situation, what would God have said? He would have revealed to them, no, these are the Gileadites. They're next on the list. They're next on the chopping block. You're meant to go through that town and take that land. They're not supposed to be a part of your people. They're supposed to be pushed out and destroyed. But instead, they made a treaty with them. And they were deceived. And the Gileadites were now protected by that treaty. And they became assimilated into the nation of Israel. And we see later on how that's a problem, why that's an issue. But I want to rest on this idea of not asking counsel from the Lord, because it affects us today. And this is the, not tangent, but this is the direction I want to take us today with this life lesson. When we stop asking God's counsel, we let the enemy slip in. And you know this to be true. Satan doesn't come to you and say, hey, you know what you should do? You should break your wife's heart and cheat on her. Wouldn't that be great? Satan doesn't say it like that. He worms in. He slips in. He finds that crack, that weakness, and he whispers. And he plants an idea. And the idea is, you haven't done anything wrong, it's just an idea. And that idea starts to take root and grow. The enemy slips in. He never presents sin for what it is. He dresses sin up like light and something beautiful and attractive. And when we stop asking God's counsel, when we stop conferring? Is that the right word? Conferring with God. When we stop going to Him and tethering ourselves to Him, and when we start just thinking for ourselves, only thinking for ourselves, and sometimes not even thinking, just go with the flow, that's when the enemy can slip in. I want to talk to you about 5 lies that have crept into the church. Sorry, that's a terrible font. It's way too small. And this is not an exclusive and complete list. These are 5 things that I believe that we can take on this morning. This is really the tip of the iceberg. There are so many ways, and I'm not speaking against the church. You'll always hear me preach that I love the church. But there are some ways that we as the church, not just Northridge exclusively, some ways where we have let our guard down and lies have snuck in. And we're starting to believe it. It becomes more normal to believe these lies. You're like, what are those lies? What is going on? What's happening to us? All right. And again, you could probably think of 20 others. But I've narrowed it down to 5 that I want to bring to you today. Here's the first one. Lie number 1. I can do it on my own. And this isn't recent. This is something I remember as a kid, where faith is personal. That's between me and God. Do you know that the enemy loves it when you isolate yourself in your faith? He loves it. He loves it when you isolate yourself in any way, to be honest. Because when you're alone with your head, he can do all sorts of amazing things in your life. But we were somehow, I don't know how this found its way into the church, or how this found its way into faith. We have declared that faith is a deeply personal thing. This is my journey, this is my thing that I'm going through. And we bought this lie that we can do it on our own. In fact, honestly, if I don't bother you with what I'm going through, if I kind of keep it to myself, then you're not going to be affected. I'm not going to affect you with the things that I'm going through. If I isolate myself, I keep things so simple that I don't have to worry about the complexity of doing it in community, of sharing my journey. Church, this is a nuclear weapon of the enemy. When you isolate yourself, when you don't believe that your story is something that needs to be shared, whether it be good or bad. I love this morning. Sorry, Roxanne, I'm going to out you here, but Roxanne comes in. She couldn't contain this moment she had with God. It was something that He had revealed to her. It's like, I can't keep this myself. And it bubbled over, and we weren't blessed by it. That's an example of not doing it on my own. God gave me this, I'm going to share it. That's the way it was meant to work. But the truth of the matter is this. It's also meant to work that way when it comes to our struggles. And I'm going to out our elders in a different way. I don't even know if all of you know who all of our elders are. That's not the point. But when you think of an elder in the church, you're thinking of somebody, well, by definition, your family's in order. You're taking care of your business well. You've got this maturity in the faith. You're respected in the church. But do you know that our elders are as vulnerable with me, and probably with each other, as anybody? And I'll tell you, I'm not going to tell you all their stories, but they've all got stories. It's this idea of understanding that we're not meant to do this on our own that gives them depth. Does that make sense? Because I think, again, another lie that we have is that the people, the leadership of our church has got all their stuff together. Gotta watch my language. Got all their stuff together, and they've got it all figured out. They have arrived. And now they can start telling everybody else what to do because they've got everything figured out. That's baloney. It's baloney. But it's a lie that we believe. You can't do it all. You're going to see some overlapping with a couple of these. Number 2. Lie number 2. The gooder I am, the more God will love me. Do you catch yourself having times where, oh man, my relationship with God is going so well? My devotional life is on point. I'm finding opportunities to share my story, my testimony, my faith with others. I'm serving in the church. I'm giving like crazy. I'm doing good. And so my relationship with God is good. Do you find that you evaluate your position in faith by the things that you do? If you do, you're pretty normal. But it is a lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. God's love for us, the word says, while we were yet sinners. And I like to elaborate or expand that to say, while you were at your absolute worst, at your lowest point of faith, at your deepest point of depravity, God sent his Son for you. And don't take that as a throwaway line. When you were at your worst, God made the decision, you know what? I'm going to send my perfect, one and only Son, Jesus, to die as a payment and allow that sinner to be free. His love for us does not depend on our goodness. I find it interesting. I may have shared this recently because it's kind of a new thought for me. I went to this workshop on the Sabbath, and it was interesting that when you look at the chronology of the people leaving Egypt, the Israelites leaving Egypt, he saved them, and then he gave them the law. He saved them from captivity, he set them free, and then he had that moment on Mount Sinai where he brought the law. It's never going to be a case where you follow the law so well that God can love you. God loves us first, and then he gives us the law so that we can be righteous. And what you find when you are aligned with God, when you are righteous, is just things tend to go better for you. When I'm true to my wife, my marriage is better. Go figure. When I pay my taxes, I don't go to jail. Go figure. When I'm kind to my neighbor, we get along. Go figure. When we are righteous, when we are aligned with what God has for us, our best, when we are good, things tend to go better for us. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. And every time I preach on righteousness, I feel like I need to go into Ecclesiastes, where there is this, there's a randomness to life that can only be explained by God as well. But the proverbial life, where if you do these good things, the likelihood of good things happening will increase. Sorry, that's a bit of a tangent. Are you getting this? This lie? This is a lie. That the gooder I am, the more God will love me. That is a lie. Number 3. Number 3 is I'm not qualified. I wouldn't call this a Northridge thing. I think that from the beginning, I think Rob did a great job. Actually, his first message was "Every Member a Minister." I think that was the title of it. Is every and he made it clear that church isn't about David coming and preaching so that everybody can be fixed. Church is, let's get together, let's stand shoulder to shoulder, let's learn something that we can take to the world from Monday to Saturday. And let's meet again next Sunday. We are all, if you make that decision to become a child of God, we walk in an authority and in a power with a responsibility given to us by God. He qualifies us. I was saying to the men last night at SNL, is I've learned more from those moments, I think, than I've learned my whole life. Because I think we're all on this path, right? And I've been on this one type of path my whole life. And I'm thankful for the fact that I've been sheltered from a lot of other parts of life. But being sheltered has also led me to being ignorant. And I don't want to have those experiences just so I can learn more, but I am so blessed to hear the stories of what these men are going through. And they're hard stories. But sometimes they don't realize how qualified they are to bless me and to bless others through the testimony of what God is doing in their lives. So again, I think Northridge, if I were to rank you in all of these things, I think this is one where I think you feel released to ministry. You understand your calling to serve and to share the gospel. So I don't think this is as big one, but this is one that I think is pervasive in the church. Line number 4. And this is going to overlap with a couple of them that I've talked about. I think lever 4 is a big one. Vulnerability is a weakness. That is a lie. And again, I'm going to talk about SNL. One of the things I love, and I've shared this several times with the public, one of the things I find very gratifying about SNL is that when I'm at Saturday Night Live, when I'm at the house, I'm with people who have come to the point that said, you know what, I need help. I'm broken. There's something that needs to change in my life. And there's nothing more beautiful than arriving at that point. The opposite is this. I've got it all together, and you make sure all your buttons are all, your hair's right, your kids are behaving, you threaten. Yeah, anybody had that conversation with their kids in the car? You better not make me look bad. Boy, oh boy. Because I want everybody to look at me and see that I've got it together. I'm doing well. That I belong in this church. I'm a Christian. Things are going good. But the beauty of vulnerability is that stuff gets done. If I've got cancer on my lung, and if I say to the doctor, okay, do whatever you want, just don't go inside my body. Just stay on the outside. Do you have a cream or something you can put on me? Because I don't really want to open myself up and make myself vulnerable. My insides are meant to be on my insides. But when we give God access to our bodies, to our hearts, to our souls, that's when He can do His work in us. And if we believe this lie that vulnerability is a weakness, we're going to show up at church every week with our cocoon or our shell, and we're going to be completely unaffected by what's going on in our community. We're not going to let anybody inside. We're not going to let anybody know what we're going through, and the pain that we're feeling, and the things that we're struggling with, or the celebrations that we're enjoying right now. I always focus on the negative, but you know what? This is a place where if you have a birthday, we should party harder than anybody on the planet. We should have joy when people get promotions, or when people retire, or when you have a baby, or you get married, whatever. All these things, we should celebrate. You Give glory to God. But we can't do that in isolation. We can't do that when we wall ourselves off. And the hardest part is, I've been born and raised in the church. So I got a certain reputation to uphold, right? And if I show you too much, this is actually something I struggle with as a leader. If I show you too much of what I'm going through, you're going to lose confidence in me as a leader. It's like, oh my goodness, he is a sinner. I can't follow him. Where's he going to lead me? Right? But if we take an honest look inside ourselves, we know we're all full of it. Sin, that is. We're all dealing and wrestling with that sin. We're working on a journey with God to be free from that sin. And if all we ever do is put our makeup on in such a way and tie our ties in such a way that nobody can tell what we're going through, if we protect ourselves from being vulnerable, we never grow, we never progress. We stay stuck and it ferments, it festers. All right, lie number 5. This is a kick of the shins. Lie number 5 is that God wants us to be happy. And man, are we ever buying into this as a Christian culture? What you're going to find, man, Roxanne brought, I got to say it a little more. Sorry, I'm sharing your story. But Roxanne just brought a teaching to us, something that she learned this week that couldn't be more true. Talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and their experience with the fiery furnace. And paralleling that with what we're going through in life. Some of you are in the fire right now. Put your hand up if you'd like to be in fire. No, it's not a natural habitat of humans. It's a place of pain. But the fire that she's referring to, the teaching was this, is that the fire doesn't just start as fire, it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. She describes 7 degrees of increasing heat. The perfect amount of heat to purify us, to melt away, to burn away all of the stuff that is not meant to be in us. When we talk about being righteous, we can never get to righteousness by being gooder. We get to righteousness through that refining fire that God brings into our lives. Fire's not fun. Now, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're interesting because they're walking around hanging out. But the fires that we walk through are excruciating pains. Brutal torment that we experience here on earth. I had a great question at SNL at the Alpha thing last night. Like, why does God allow pain and suffering? And this is not the complete answer to that question. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes that pain and suffering is for our benefit. In my body, if I stub my toe and I don't feel pain, there's a problem there. And Marla's not here to refer to, but is that not the nature of leprosy? Is that you start to lose feeling in that part of your body, so you could do damage, but you don't know you've done damage, and so you don't treat it. Your body doesn't respond to it. The thing about pain is it alerts us to something that needs attention. It gives us an understanding of the refining that needs to happen. And if we buy this lie that, God just wants you to be happy, then we're going to find it really easy just to fall. My goodness, that's such a natural path to follow in this world. The path to happiness. Well, what if I got 2 choices? Which one's going to make me happier? I think of it's graduation season. I think of our students, and as they plot out their next steps, okay, they've been in this rigid system, K to 12, where they have to show up. You got to go to school, and this is what you're going to learn. Now's the first fork in the road for them. And the typical planning strategy, and we do this as parents to our kids, well, what's going to set you up for success? What's going to put you on the path that is going to lead to your happiness? And even if we don't say the words, that's the picture we present to them. What's going to open the most doors? What's going to set you up for everything that you want in the future? Go that way. Because if we go to the right school, we can get the right job. If we get the right job, we can make the money that we want to make. And if we make the money we want to make, we can have the lifestyle that makes us happy. And our whole paradigm for planning our lives can be centered around this idea. Well, you know what? God's given me these gifts. I'm going to use them to make myself happy. Now, God's not grumpy. Let's be clear about that. God's not this angry God who stop smiling. He's not against joy. For crying out loud, it's a fruit of the Spirit. But when we pursue happiness the way we were meant to pursue God, we are distracted to the point of hell. This is a lie that God wants us to be happy. I'm going to invite the worship team to come back up. I'm also going to invite the ushers to get ready. We're going to have a time of offering. I want to bring you back to why we're talking about these lies. What happens is when we let our guard down, when we start to become introspective and self-sufficient in life, when things are going so well, when you're so comfortable that you stop crying out to God for everything that you're doing in life. And as a little bit of a tangent, this is one of the reasons why your devotional time is most commonly best done first thing in the morning. First thing I told Josh about his internship is the first part of your day, two things. You're doing your devotional from YouVersion, and we're going to do a little teaching for these little YouTube clips. That's the way we're going to start the day. And the reason we start that way is because we remind ourselves, we put ourselves in alignment for the day. I'm not a morning person, so it's tough for me. But if you're doing it at the end of the day, at least you're doing it. At least you're devoting yourself to the Word. But the next thing you're going to do is sleep. Whereas when you start your day aligning yourself with God, that reminds you and reminds God that you surrender control to Him. That your day you want to come under Him. You want to be righteous. So again, it's an endorsement of doing that. If you want to be strong and courageous, we've got to fill ourselves up with the right thing. We've got to remain tethered to the Father. Here's what we're going to do. As the worship team leads us in this next song, you can stay seated. The usher team is going to pass out the elements, the crackers, and the juice. Hold both of them, please. After this first song, I'm going to come back up and teach through communion. Let's pray together. Jesus, we take this moment to do what you asked us to do. You asked us to do this in remembrance of you. And this is everything that we taught today. Forgive us for those times where you have blessed us so much, where we feel like we can coast. We feel like we don't need to keep seeking you. We don't need saving because we're already saved. We're doing great. So, Father, forgive us for those times where we take credit or we see sufficiency in ourselves. We take this moment, Father, to remind ourselves of what you did, that your body was broken for us, that we can have freedom, we can have joy, we can have peace, because of what you did, giving yourself for us. Thank you, Father. Let's take the cracker together. Just take the cup. This cup represents the blood of Jesus. And you know, I'll be the first to admit, I don't take a lot of time to think about how blessed I am by this blood of Jesus. By the power of this blood when things are going great. to me, it's such a harsh and severe thing. It's powerful, but it's associated with pain. And I confess I don't think about it when things are going well. But man, oh man, when things are going rough, this is what I know that I need. This is what I long for. This is what I cry out for. So again, Father, I pray your forgiveness for the times when things are going just so well that I'm physically healthy, emotionally and spiritually healthy, where my relationships are good, and I don't consider the thing that has gone into those that has made them good. The blessing of your sacrifice. So right now, as you've instructed us, we remember. We remember what you did. We remember the power of what you gave the world when you shed your blood on the cross. Thank you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's take the cup together. All right. We're going to sing one more song together. Let's worship the one who blesses us. Let's sing together.